April 15th is a dreaded day here in the US. It's the date our federal income taxes are due. And if you're a business owner, your quarterly taxes can give you migraines. But if you're researching an ancestor, the fact that they paid taxes and that it's recorded for you to research, well, that's just a gold mine. Hi, I'm Lisson with Are You My Cousin, a guest contributor here with the Family History Fanatics channel. And this is part 5 of an 8-part collaboration with my friend Devin Noel Lee of this channel. We are here to help you take the overwhelm out of researching around that 1890 US Census record loss. If you've missed any of the previous installments, be sure and check out the links in the description below or in the info cards that pop up throughout this video series. When your ancestor had to pay taxes, a record was created, and that's a really good thing. So now, unfortunately, there are very few identifying markers in these records for your ancestor beyond something such as John Smith paid $40. But with a little detective work on your part as a researcher, you can use that information to learn more about your ancestor. And as a bonus with tax records, you can use those to track an ancestor year by year, as opposed to every 10 years that the census record allows you to research. And that's a good thing. Now, before you start researching in tax records, there are a couple things you need to know. You need to know the tax law as it applied to your ancestor in that time and in that place. In other words, you need to know what was being collected, what type of information that record can tell you. And it will help you to avoid making critical mistakes in your analysis of the record if you understand who was being taxed, what was being taxed for that time period. Now, another important consideration when researching tax records is to remember that just because your ancestor did not appear in a tax record when you think he should have, does not mean that he is not there in that area or that location or that time for that time period. It also does not mean that he was dodging the tax collector. Maybe he was, but maybe he wasn't. You cannot make that assumption. You need more information. Now, for example, to give you a kind of an idea, in 1790 North Carolina, white males over the age of 21 were required to pay a poll tax. If your ancestor was 19 or 20, he's not going to appear in that record as having a poll tax paid, whether by himself or by his father. He wasn't required, so he was not going to be there. A little bit later, by 1801 in North Carolina, free white males over the age of 50 were not required to pay that tax, that poll tax. So if your ancestor is 55 in 1801, he is not going to show up in that poll tax list because he wasn't required to pay that. So that kind of gives you an idea why you need to understand what was being asked and who was required to pay it. So just where do you find tax records? I am so glad you asked. Are they online? Are they offline? And the answer is yes to both of those. Now, sometimes you're going to find them online, and I'm seeing more and more becoming available online. But most tax records, quite honestly, are not going to be online. They're going to be offline. So you want to check for online tax records. I typically find them more through the state archives who have digital collections. Some states do have some of those older tax records online. Other places to look might be Ancestry.com, Find My Past, My Heritage, larger genealogy database. Another place to look might be Digital Public Library of America. Some people know that as DPL. Or even the Internet Archive can also have some tax list. This changes, and it does vary from site to site, and it's changing over time. So I would encourage you just to check back periodically to see what might have been added. Now, tax records that are not found online are typically going to be found at a courthouse, the county courthouse, or at the state archives. Some counties, sometimes they would retain the original records and just send copies. And other times they might have gone ahead and sent some of those original copies, particularly those early and older ones, to the state archive. I would highly recommend that you call ahead to a state archives or to a county courthouse to see what they have and what they have retained before making a special trip to research those records. Make sure you know what they have before you go. Now, about those tax laws that I talked about earlier, laws about who and what was taxed vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and it varies over time from various time periods. So often who and what were taxed are included at the beginning of that tax record, or you check the columns at the top to see what the headings say, because those can be very helpful in knowing who was taxed and what was taxed and the age ranges there as well.